The brightness of this clock is a bit of a dim and distant memory. Let's crack on. Hello and welcome to another MrBetaByte video, and this one's a little bit different insofar as it's part 2 of Xavier's HF100 repair. And we left it in part 1. We still had sort of strange colour issues, and had a couple of comments, a couple of things to check and test. You got that the wrong way around. But the first thing I'm going to start with is the VFD, and it is really very, very dim. So my thinking is, I have actually got another display. I don't know how bright that's going to be, but for all intents and purposes, the displays used on C30, C20, C40, pin for pin, I believe, are identical. I've checked the manual for both, and they do appear to be similar. The way they've sort of given the pins and what they do is a bit different from one to the other. Yeah, following it through, and the one I had to do, I think for the HF100 actually, I had to follow through the pins to the cabling. And this one actually has the what each one does, actually each connection on the actual display. So yeah, a bit of reverse engineering, I suppose, but they are the same. Now the only real difference I can see is the length of the actual connecting wires. So quite a bit more of a standoff on a HF100 compared to C20, 30, 40. So I'm going to have to extend the wires, and I've got a load of component legs saved. I don't know if I've quite got enough, but we can manage. So I'm going to take the front off this, and we'll take out the old VFD, put the new, we'll put this one in with the extra bits of wire, and see what happens. So yeah, let's crack on. Okay, so 2 screws either side. I'm going to watch out for the headphone volume button, because that'll pop off. Just heard all these slide down as well, so which you've always got to watch out for. I know I say it every time I work on one of these and some similar machines. Make sure all these are pushed down. There we go. It's actually quite dusty, so yeah, to be fair, the display was incredibly dusty and dirty. Let's just power it up again and just have a look at the display. Yeah, it's pretty tired. I'm noticing a little bit of a whine from the power supply as well, so we'll do the same as we did on the last HF100 and actually swap out all of the capacitors in the can. And then that should just get rid of that squealing. But yeah, it's so tired, this display. So yeah, let's power it back off then. And we do also have those 2 capacitors on the back of the clock panel, or assembly really. It's a complete unit. And these are, for what it's worth, sort of greeny coloured screws. Now, need to remember there is another screw, yes. Amazed I remembered that. It's been a very long while since I've taken one of these apart or off. So, big connector top. And the VU meters, they can come off. And loads more cables, of course, to come off. But am I going to do that? I suppose we could free off. Yeah, all I really need to do is get to this panel here to change those two caps. So, and they're on 2 screws, and then just really get this panel out enough for me to be able to take off the VFD. So, little screws. Same screw type as the VU meters, and we've got a bit of a battle insofar as we've got a connection that goes right the way back to the panel. You can't see this. Let me just move you. So yeah, we've got a connection that goes from the front here, it's hardwired, round to the main, probably the SS board. So can I do this without cutting a cable? Yes. So I have to try and remember that I've done that and put one back, put the cable tie back. Ah, that's this connector up here, which you can't quite see. So let's unplug that. I should be able to just feed this through. Carefully. Magic. That's plenty. That's plenty good enough for me. Right, well, that's desoldered. Whether it'll come off, I think it is actually stuck as well. But to be fair, I'll probably take the plastic off anyway, because mounting the other new VFD or replacement VFD on there actually seems fairly tired adhesive. Is it just going to come off? Hopefully it should. It feels free enough. I'm trying to avoid what I can see I've done on one leg actually. One leg is causing me a problem. Oh, 2. go. So I've stretched 2 legs, which I don't like doing. They're relatively robust. I mean, these are a pain in the neck to get back in as well. Although I've got a bit of a trick for doing it. So spring them all up and then just drag them in. But yeah, so that's the old one out, and I'm gonna have to clean all this up. So next thing is to get this one off. So yeah, let's get and do that. Right, so what did I do with that plectrum? Because this is stuck down as well, of course. What did I do? There it is. So, and this is just literally just stuck to the PCB in this case, so much easier to get at. There's no plastic lip to get in the way. Got to be careful because of the bits of metal that stick up from the top. Could be quite painful. There we go. So that's actually quite a padded double-sided piece of adhesive. Oh, most of that's out. Super. So that's that. So yeah, I need to just clean off the adhesive a bit. But I'm not going to worry too much about that because it's more important that I'm just careful with it. But yeah, I will get this off. It should be fairly straightforward to get off, to be honest. That is looking rather good. A few smears down the bottom, but I'm not too worried about that. I'd rather not bump these. You see I've bumped a couple trying to clean it. That one is slightly pulled. Get focus. So slightly pulled. But yeah, that's fine. Decide how I'm going to do this. If I take this off, glue on the new VFD, and then solder wires to extend the existing connections on the replacement VFD. Get all of this off, of course, and then maybe we'll be somewhere near. I think that's the way I'm going to do it. There are many ways I could do it. And I don't know which is best, really. I'm looking for speed as well as reliability of the connections, because they're going to have to be lap, which is okay. There's enough of them to give enough mechanical strength, I think. Well, it's going to be glued as well, so it's just literally making connections, isn't it? So yeah, so I'll continue to get this. I won't show this. Well, deed is done. It is glued anyway. I used 2 lots of this actually, and I didn't take the backing off the first one, which you might think is a bit silly to do, but actually it gives it a little bit of ease of removal if I need to take it back off. Shouldn't need to, but it's well stuck. So I've just checked, and the screw holes on this alignment, focus is terrible, isn't it? The screw holes are, when these are lined up, these are lined up with the PCB properly, so there probably will be a tiny bit of sort of jiggling about to get it in, but no, we should be okay, I think. So yeah, so I'll get and solder on my component legs. You can see how much shorter they are than the other display, and hopefully it'll all line up and we can solder it in. So yeah, let's crack on. So soldered in all the wire to sort of bridge the gap between the VFD and the board. I ended up using this wire because the component legs were just too strong, and the mechanical stress actually very easily broke a pad. So that one I've had to repair. It's for the heater. But this wire's a little bit thinner, and with care I'm able to manipulate them without damaging the pads. That's the theory anyway. So far so good. So yeah, so I've just put loops in, soldered them in, and then cut the tops off, and there's the remaining one to do. So finish that off, and I'll get the assembly put back in and solder onto the connections, and we should be good to go. Well, I've changed the two suspect caps, very leaky caps. I've done the one at the bottom as well. They're all 10 microfarad, 16 volts. I've used 25 volts, which is fine. And I was considering taking off the yellow pads because they can get quite conductive. But I don't know. I think I'm going to leave them for now and see how we get on. But I think they'll probably be okay where they are, possibly. But yeah, I'll put this back together, and we'll see what the clock's like. I don't know whether you've noticed, we do have a bit of a technical problem with the clock. Even if it works, I've got that sticking outside, the evacuation glass seal. So I'm going to have to see what I can do about that, if anything. See what it looks like, see how far I can get away with manoeuvring it over a little bit. Won't be quite the same as the original then. It'll be a bit further over in the display if I do that, but I don't know. We'll see what it's like. Let's crack on. Well, it's all back together, and that glass evacuation tube is way out. I might be able to move it over a bit. Of course I glued it, which wasn't a great idea in hindsight, but anyway, let's see if it works, because if it doesn't work, then, well, yeah, it does. Oh, it's lovely and bright, isn't it? Got a problem there, which is probably down to dodgy wires. No. It's probably because the wire was, I should have cleaned it really first before I soldered it, and yeah, but it works. It's good. So yeah, I just have to really try and work out how I'm gonna sort of try and sort out the this. It does stick out quite a long way, like quite a long way. Believe it or not, I can get the front cabinet on, but this is right where that screw mount is. So, yeah, could be interesting. Anyway, I'll think about that, and yeah, let's crack on. Well, I'm taking a plunge and I'm changing the whole board basically with this one. You could argue I could change the display, but those channel change digits, it's the chip. The chip is actually not outputting on those respective elements. There's just no real voltage there at all. So yeah, just changed a lot. It's obviously pretty tired. So yeah, I thought it was going to be fairly straightforward. The sliders, they go to this sub panel, so I had to take that apart again, which is fine. But where are we? This connector here, this goes to the TU board, as does the other 3-pin one here. No, sorry, this one goes to the TU board. This one goes to the TU board. This one goes to the Syscon. And it is actually, I think it's that one, looking at the color coding. And it's white as well, I'm guessing white to white. So yeah, and we have got the bread tie, which I think is just an aid to manufacture. So basically the loom comes ready assembled to go into the machine, and this is just to keep it all nice and tidy prior to it being mounted in there. That's what I think it is anyway. It does make sense. And it's sort of a common method of organizing cables for things like that, cable runs and management. So yeah, I've given it a bit of a dust. I can see I've missed some bits, but yeah, it's a nice tidy machine now, that's for sure. So yeah, I'll get and do that, and then we'll crack on. New board's in place, or new panel, and everything's connected back up. Was indeed that connector, and these all went back quite nicely. Took off the bread wrap cable tie and fed everything through quite nicely. There's this connector. This one's just for the IR receiver, so didn't have to touch that. I did wonder about, because this is the one that goes to the SS board, and I did wonder about sort of unclipping this, because it's a separate little panel. It's just held on by 2 plastic clips. Unclipping it and maybe feeding it through the plastic assembly, but there really is not space with the switches as well. There just wasn't space, so yeah, I had to take it apart. I just find it a bit weird because Sony, I haven't put connectors, even though it's labelled as such. These are hardwired, so this one and one under there as well is hardwired, as is that one. So as you can see, that's just cabled straight in. So yeah, it is what it is, I suppose. But get this back together and give it a test to see how bad or good that other display is. But to be fair, I mean, it can't be any worse than the one I took off. Famous last words. Okay, so all back together. I had a bit of an issue trying to get this back in there, but these cables, but managed to feed them in the end, so that's good. And let's give it a try. It's not bad. That's actually not bad at all. That's bright enough. And oh, of course it's on AV. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, let's turn the lights down. Yeah, that's not bad. It's a little bit dull, but it's a lot better than the previous one by a long shot. So yeah, and hopefully it might even sort of, because obviously it's not been used for years probably. Certainly, I mean, I've had this panel for what, 4 years, and it was parts then. So yeah, who knows how long that's been off for, but I'm more than happy with that. So yeah, time to get on with the colour issue, which could be fun. Let's crack on. Well, a lot's happened since I recorded the last segment. First of all, front cover's back on, clock's looking brilliant. There was a scratch on here, and I actually fixed that with some Silvo. I saw some the other day in the supermarket. I thought I'd try that instead of Brasso, because Silvo has less issues then with the alloys than Brasso, so it has got the same sort of acidic content. So yeah, clock's on. The VU meters, they work. Where are we? I'm just blindly. Where is it? Hi-Fi. There we go. So yeah, working well. So yeah, I do seem to have a bit of a problem with the linear audio, which is a bit of a pain. But we have colour, as you might have noticed by the screen grab. It's not perfect. Got a little bit of phase shift there. Although I have to say, on the TV it looks fine. The capture seems to be picking up just on the edge of the blue there, but we'll have a look at that. But I thought I'll just change this variable capacitor, because it just seemed like it's what I've seen before. These do sort of give problems and become sort of dodgy. And even though this was adjusting correctly, it obviously wasn't adjusting correctly enough, because changing that for a brand new one, I think that's 3 to 20 picofarads. I think it's a little bit different anyway from the original. It goes lower. Yeah, that seems to have done it. Now, the only slight thing I have, somewhere I've got a bad joint. So yeah, it seems to be around this capacitor, so I need to sort that out. Just go through it and then investigate that audio fault, and I think we're about there. Oh yes, the only other thing I've got to do is that lacing, the noisy lacing. I sort of forget about that because I'm leaving a cassette in it all the time, so I press eject and go, oh good grief, that needs to be sorted. So yeah, so I will look for that dry joint or bad joint, just go through the soldering. It's probably something I've done. I did end up changing all of the blue, the light blue 10 microfarad capacitors. I think these are Matsushita, Panasonic, I'm sure they are. But they all had sort of green legs or rot on them. I mean, those are the ones from the front panel. They all just are rotten. So, and it's only the 10 microfarad. All the rest seem to be fine. So, but I've changed them over on this side. Pretty much have recapped this now, to be honest. Trying to find out what on earth was wrong, and it turned out to be that capacitor. And one of you did actually say in the comments about that capacitor, and I changed it with one from another board. And that's obviously faulty as well. But that fault really did my head in, because adjusting this, I still got amplitude variation. So I was thinking, oh, it must be right. It didn't look quite as high as it should have been, but I was putting that down to a fault elsewhere, not the fact that this could be faulty. But yeah, that's all it was. So really, really chuffed to have found that. It's just worth a stab. And like I say, I've come across that problem so many times. Just changed that, adjusted it, and it's been fine. And I just assumed because I changed it from another board, this would be fine. But no, it wasn't. So yeah, anyway, enough waffle, let's crack on. So just looking at the noise of the lacing and unlacing and unloading as well. And this feels decidedly not, well, dry, really, is probably the way to put it. So, yeah, the grease is quite hardened in there, so I'm going to clean that up. There doesn't seem to be a lot of grease in there, to be honest. You can see a little bit on there. But I'll clean that up anyway, and then I'm going to use some silicone-based grease. And hopefully that will quieten things down a bit, just make it run a bit smoother. But yeah, it's quite dry, so yeah, I'll get and do that next. Well, that's certainly a lot better. I've sort of got a bit of run on, still a bit of grease in there actually, by the looks of it. Or maybe not, maybe it's just stained. But certainly running a lot better. I do need to... So I've got quite a bit of grease overspill actually. Couldn't quite control it enough to stop it getting everywhere. But yeah, that's actually running well. So that's great. This one has a washer in it. I don't know whether that's been added at a later date. I don't think so. I don't think it's ever been a part. So I have to say it's a bit of a funny deck, this, because it looks like it was really in pretty good condition when it was put into storage. It's just not been stored very well. It's just a bit of a shame, really. Because you know, it's a great machine, but yeah, just having so many problems with capacitors. Has been its downfall, really. So I was thinking the problem might have been down to this riding a little too high, but it's not. It's actually fine. Just wondering if the motor's actually okay as well, but I think it is. Feels about right, to be fair. Pop that back over. Oops, nearly. And don't need to over tighten it. It doesn't need an awful lot of tension. So there we go. So let's give that a try. Also clean the tape path as well. Again, oh, just if we actually turn it on. Oh, that's much better. Still sounds a little bit funny, but oh, has the gear come off the bottom again? Oh. Obviously it has. Or maybe not. It's obviously still driving a little bit. Because it's putting it back. What's happened there? Thing is, nothing's gone down there. It's not like grease has gone down there or anything, because there's nowhere near where I've just done. So it's only this bit here that's where we've got the issue. So take all this apart again. As we've got power off. Oops, nearly. And let's undo the spring again. There's actually some grease on there. A little bit of spray grease got on there. Yeah, it's just sliding on there. We can put it off. It's just because it had that grease on it, and I obviously just have not properly got the grease off, which is a bit of a pain. I wonder if I can do this without breaking the gear. Oops. Yes. Is the answer to that. Where did that go? I just went hurtling the other side of the machine. Anyway, there we go. So it looks like what happened, I put some glue on the end of the gear, pushed it in, and it seems that the glue didn't actually go down the shaft. It's all still at the top end of the shaft. There's no glue at all on any of this part, so it's literally, it was just stuck by the just by the top bit of glue, and a little bit at the bottom as well, where it sort of come through. This glue, I think, it's gone off. Oh no. So I'm going to do this a bit differently. Way too much. I'll just put even more on. Let's take some off this with the wood. Cotton wool bud. Just turn that while it's still okay. Well, I'll let that dry and hopefully we'll be good to go, and this time it will properly stick. I know I've got enough glue in there, and I know that it's actually on the shaft, not just mainly being glued at the top. So yeah, I will let that dry, give that a few minutes, and we'll give it another go. While I think of it and while I'm waiting for that glue to dry, I did just swap over the linear audio panel just to see if it made any difference at all, whether I did actually have a problem with the with it. One capacitor was bad. It had white goo all on the bottom, and it spilled out onto the board as well. Actually tests fairly okay still, but obviously it's not good. It's actually across the 12 volt. It's the supply for the board anyway. Yeah, so I did swap it over and it made no difference whatsoever, so I've put the old one back in. Let's push that so it's located. And yeah, so it turned out the audio head was just really filthy, really mucky, so I've given that a good clean, and we should be good to go with that, to be honest. It's never going to be as good, obviously, as the Hi-Fi anyway. But yeah, I'm happy with that. So yeah, just got to wait for this glue to dry, and then we'll give it another go. So it's about dry. Let's see if I can get this back together. Don't really want to take this back off if I can help it. Just want to avoid stressing anything more than it needs to be. And there we go. It's pointless holding the top because obviously you're sort of going to be fighting against your fingers. That seems good and tight now. I mean, there is movement there, but yeah, it's sounding a lot better. So I can't see there's much more movement there than with the other gear, to be fair. So I just heard the bottom, the one assembly slide off, which is what it does, but as long as it doesn't come off the shaft that it's mounted on, then we're fine. So excellent. Oh, hang on, I've got that wrong. I've put that the wrong side. It needs to be between the backing washer and the little mounting peg to see the spring getting far too stretched. That would actually foul the solenoid when it tried to pull in if I'd left it like I was trying to install it. Sometimes it's just like you do these things like so many times, and then there's that one time where you start really doubting yourself and you put it together incorrectly as a result. That was nearly that time. So okay, so I'm going to give that just a bit longer just to dry. Super. Okay. We'll be back. Okay, so let's power it back up. Power it on. Let's run that. Yeah, it's working well. So let's try. That sounds more like I'd expect. It's still a little bit noisier than I would expect, but it's fine. Yeah, those VU meters are fully working. It's a miracle. I'm going to turn them off, save them. Video on, Wi-Fi on. Normal, auto. Well, we made it. It's all good to go. Probably could do with, well, I don't know. I will give it a bit of a clean. But yeah, so we have a half decent, relatively bright clock display, which is great, and colour, which is good. Lacing and unlacing fine. Power supply's done. Alignment's done, and yeah, let me just do a bit of a capture.
Even though once he mixed up the reels during the 10 Commandments and had Moses lead the Israelites back into slavery. It was great for us, though.
Furthest left. You can see it just loses lock like these
For the last 2
do.
years, he worked as a bagman for a mob bookie out of Las Vegas.
And then tracking furthest right, you can see it starting to come in. That's furthest right. So yeah, what's it still like? Yeah, good. So yeah, fantastic. So this can go back to Xavier just in time for his birthday as well, which will be rather nice. And yeah, it's just great. And VU meters, great to see those working 100% as they should. Those two caps there obviously made the difference there to actually get them to work as they should. But super, really happy with this. Yeah, I do need to give it a bit more of a clean. So with that, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll hopefully see you in another video. Bye for now.